Another developing story. He is getting a one-way ticket out of here.
The diplomat whose smoking sparked a mid-air terror alert will be expelled from the country.
And tonight, the security scare has many asking, why isn't he going to jail like anyone else would? CBS 2's Dana Tyler is here with the controversy. Dana.
Christine, U.S. officials said today the diplomat will either be sent home or transferred to another country. But air travelers we spoke with this afternoon say he should get more than just a slap on the wrist. The man whose actions are sparking passenger outrage is 27-year-old Mohammed al-Madadi. The embassy diplomat from the small Middle East nation of Qatar was on board a United Airlines jet from Washington to Denver to speak to a jailed al-Qaeda agent. Authorities say after sneaking a smoke in the airplane's bathroom, al-Madadi made a joke to federal air marshals who confronted him, saying he'd been trying to light his shoes, in apparent reference to the 2001 so-called shoe bomber Richard Reed. No one found the joke funny.
I heard the air marshal behind me indicate to the passenger to tell the truth and just relax, and they appeared to have everything under control. I mean, you could tell that there was a heightened sense of awareness, but certainly it appeared they had everything under control.
2 F-16 fighter jets were scrambled to escort the plane to Denver. No explosives were found, and al-Madadi was released and won't be charged with a crime. Passengers at LaGuardia today were stunned.
What if that was you? I would definitely be charged with a crime. I'd probably be sitting in jail somewhere today.
Any kind of a joke about anything should be taken very seriously, and they can't let him go.
Diplomatic status does not give you the right to go ahead and do whatever you want. Having someone do that, and because he has diplomatic immunity, is ridiculous.
International protocol. The 1961 Vienna Convention says diplomats in foreign countries enjoy broad immunity from prosecution, and that immunity can only be waived by the diplomat's home country, something that rarely happens. Qatar's ambassador cautioned a rush to judgment, but Long Island Congressman Peter King says al-Madadi was irresponsible.
The governor of Qatar should apologize to the United States, should pay the cost. This diplomat should be totally ashamed of himself. What he did was disgraceful. It was inexcusable.
Since al-Madadi is being removed from the country, the U.S. government will not take any formal action against him. Chris?
Dana, thank you very much. For the second.
The Mideast diplomat who caused a terror scare on a United Airlines flight last night was himself en route to make a consular visit with a jailed terrorist. No charges, but that diplomat could be kicked out of the country as soon as tomorrow. Jonathan Deese working the story today. Jonathan, what's the latest?
David, that diplomat from Qatar will not be charged given his diplomatic immunity. This after he was caught smoking in the plane's bathroom and then apparently commented he was setting his shoes on fire. Denver police and emergency crews were deployed. Fighter jets were scrambled. Other flights in the air across the U.S. were warned. And for a time, air marshals had grabbed Qatar diplomat Mohammed al-Madadi because Madadi apparently referred to setting his shoes on fire after he was caught smoking a pipe in the restroom. For a time, there was concern of an actual threat. The memory of terrorist shoe bomber Richard Reed, who had explosives in his shoes, all too vivid, as is the Christmas underwear bomb suspect who had hid in the bathroom for a time. U.S. officials angry over this diplomat's behavior.
What he did was absolutely stupid and irresponsible.
Madadi is Qatar's third secretary in Washington, and he's going back to his embassy for likely one last day. Officials say he will next be sent back home to the Persian Gulf because of his actions. Madadi had been assigned by his embassy to go visit terrorist Ali al-Mari, who is from Qatar and Saudi Arabia. This visit, we are told, part of routine consular visits. 157 passengers were on the plane, including the chief spokesman for NORAD, who would soon learn his military fighters were alongside the plane. Some passengers from the D.C. to Denver flight were worried.
The authorities reacted appropriately and with all caution, and it was quite an inconvenience, but better than a tragedy.
No explosives were found, and the passengers were never in any danger. But some say the Qatar government owes more than just an apology for its diplomats' actions.
Quite frankly, it would be a very good faith offer on their part to pay for the costs that were incurred here.
Qatar officials issued a statement overnight saying it was a mistake to think there was any threat. No comment since from this ally, which hosts important U.S. Air Force bases in the Gulf. One final side note, Qatar diplomats here in New York owe more than $119,000 in parking tickets. Sue, David.
All right, Jonathan.
Nightly News with Brian Williams.
Good evening. First reports said a man from a Middle Eastern country tried to set off a shoe bomb from a flight last night from Washington to Denver. First reports are often wrong, and so was this one, but it triggered a massive scare that spread through the flying skies across the country. Fighter jets were scrambled, passengers were frozen in place. In the end, there was no bomb, just a combination of wrongdoing on the part of the passenger and a misunderstanding in the post-9/11 era of zero tolerance in our skies. Our report on what did happen from our Justice correspondent, Pete Williams. He's where the flight originated at National Airport in Washington. Pete, good evening.
Brian, it happened on a United Airlines flight that took off from here at Reagan National Airport. The trouble began when a passenger tried to sneak a smoke on board and then made a flippant and very unfortunate remark.
It was a harrowing night for 157 passengers aboard a United Airlines flight, though it ended safely.
It was quite an inconvenience, but better than a tragedy.
Flight 663, a 757 like this one, was well on its way, about an hour from a scheduled stop in Denver before going on to Las Vegas, when a passenger in first class spent a long time in the bathroom. Federal investigators say when he came out, a flight attendant smelled smoke and notified 2 federal air marshals on board. They questioned the man, 27-year-old Mohammed al-Madadi from the Persian Gulf nation of Qatar, assigned to its embassy in Washington. He was on official business to check on the treatment of a federal prisoner, Ali al-Mari, convicted last year of being an al-Qaeda sleeper agent in the U.S. When al-Madadi was asked about his smoking in the bathroom, officials say, he replied sarcastically that he was, quote, trying to light my shoe on fire and refused to give up his lighter. Taking no chances, the pilot sent an emergency message, and the FAA immediately relayed warnings to other planes in the air, recorded by the website liveatc.net.
Be advised, the U.S. air carrier has reported a passenger has attempted to ignite his shoes on fire. All pilots are to maintain extra vigilance and report any anomalies immediately.
Passengers on other flights were told to stay seated and to put everything away. CNBC's Scott Cohn, flying last night on Continental to New Jersey, says the pilot gave more than one warning.
He came back on and said, I just want to reiterate, you're not allowed to have anything on your laps, and especially cell phones and computers. And if we find anything on your lap, I will divert the flight.
And 2 F-16 fighter jets like these were scrambled to escort the United flight. Al-Madadi, who was wearing sandals, was searched, but no explosives were found. A frequent critic of the Department of Homeland Security says the government's response was just right.
The air marshals, from all that I know, did exactly the right thing, and what he did was absolutely stupid and irresponsible.
The Justice Department has decided not to file charges, which would have been legally complicated because al-Madadi has diplomatic immunity. But Qatar has agreed to send him packing back home by tomorrow. Brian?
Pete Williams at National Airport starting us off. Pete, thanks. We turn now to